Hey, Agrippa KC here. We're going to start a new series here for Too Long involving firearms. Where we're going to talk about some reloading concepts. I've just now started getting into it, and I've got a lot of friends that have been asking me questions. So I thought I would do a little series on how to reload and the adventures that I'm having in the process. We've gone quite a ways from a basic Lee loader set to now working with a press, and I have a powder measure and an auto primer. And these are all things that we'll go over in more detail as we progress through this series. Hopefully this will be popular, and you guys can ask me specific questions, and we'll try to find an answer together.
This is the weapon that kind of started this whole thing, is my Colt News Service. It's chambered in .455 Eley and was originally sent to England in 1916 to help with the World War I war effort. All the markings check out on it as being British proof stamps. To keep the internet happy, I'm going to safety check it now. Take a look. It's empty. Clicky clicky. Now, when I first bought it, it had a thin coat of rust all over it. I wasn't sure what I was going to find when I cleaned it off. The grips were dingy. I cleaned off the grime off of those, and they came back real nice. There's no identifying marks anywhere on the revolver showing possible ownership or unit, though, and that was a little disappointing, but still a very enjoyable piece, and I'm glad I bought it. In 1916, this would have been the original round that this would have been used in the war, the .45 Colt. This was used predominantly by the Americans throughout the war because it was really a fantastic man-stopper, as they used to say, in like a dime, out like a dinner plate. To simulate what the .45 Webley was like, I made some casings that were shorter and loaded those as a .455 Webley, and it is very anemic. At short range, I'm sure it was very effective, but if you're beyond more than 10-15 yards, I'm not sure it would kill somebody on the first shot. On the outside of the barrel, it's marked with the not English make and the 2 spots that were put on all revolvers that were imported into England that were not English make. It's kind of a little nuanced bit that I really like. With it originally being .455 Eley/Webley, a conversion had to be done to make it fire .45 Colt. The biggest problem is in the rear of the gun in the cylinder. Now, the person who converted it in 1955 did it correctly so that I can fire both Webley and the .45 Colt, thus allowing me to be able to shoot my my revolver without any problems. The spacing is correct with the .45 Colt brass. Now, if I take a piece of .45 Colt brass, you can see how it sits down inside that little recess that allows the thicker case on the .45 Colt to space correctly, allowing for the rotation of the cylinder without it getting gummed up or jamming or anything. One of the other things that separates the 1909 from the original version is the fact that it has a drop safety on it. So when you see how it clicks back, when you pull the trigger, it allows the trigger or hammer to go all the way through and hit the primer. So in the back of the gun, when I release the trigger, the block comes up so you can't see the firing pin and it will not go forward. But if you pull the trigger, it pulls through and you can see the firing pin protruding through the back of the cylinder. This was the biggest difference between the original and the 1909. So what's the point of having a vintage gun without knowing what movies has my gun been in? So here's a little tour. We have the Untouchables, the Canadian Mounties, which of course carried the news service, and so this is a period correct little thing to look for. This is in Last Man Standing. The Mexican police and the federales carried them. Then in Bonnie and Clyde, it made several appearances throughout the film. That is such a giant gun in her hands. Harlem Nights. And one of my all-time favorite movies, Miller's Crossing. Of course, there's the gun gurus, Othias and Mae over at C&Rsenal. They did a whole episode about it, and we have lots to thank them for. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you for our next videos. Have a great day.